So, continuing with today's proceedings, we now have a panel discussion, which is on Payments Rewired, exploring the impact of blockchain, AI and open banking on remittances. Now, this will be a 45-minute discussion, moderated with wonderful Lindsay. There'll be 30 minutes at the end, approximately, for questions from the audience. For those joining online, don't forget to click on the button, the QA button on the right of your screen. Those questions come to us. They'll then be viewed and they'll then be posed to our wonderful guests. So let's introduce the guests. We have Lindsay Lehr, who is the moderator. We have Sukhi Srivatsan, the head of account management at Asa Finance. Come on, let's just more energy, people. This is, look how she's walked all that way just for you. This is, how's the little one?
Good. Didn't wake
Sleep
up.
it. There you go. See how amazing.
The 3-year-old woke up, but it's okay.
This is indeed a superwoman. She had little to no sleep yesterday and delivered a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for being with us today. Walter de Cruz. I mean, this is. He needs no introduction. He's a director of Moneo Solutions. And then finally, David Lambert, CEO at Paycross. Lindsay, over to you.
All right. Welcome. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you.
We covered a lot of ground in the presentation. I think it was a nice foundation for our discussion. All of you guys have wonderful areas of expertise and are very passionate about certain areas. But I'd love you guys just to do a quick intro of yourselves. 10 seconds on what your company does, okay? And then I'd like you to tell us what is, if you had to just choose one, what area of the industry are you most passionate or excited about right now? So let's start with you, Sukhi.
Okay, thank you. I think by now the audience should know a little bit about me and Asa Finance, given that I spoke twice yesterday. Hopefully you guys are not too bored. But yeah, Asa Finance, we do cross-border B2B payments, FX, and treasury. So we help businesses do those services in frontier markets. So that's been our specialty. And I know I had a slide up yesterday that showed African continent. I've been talking a lot about Africa, but we have recently launched Brazil payouts as well as India payouts. So we are slowly getting into the other frontier markets. And one area I'm most passionate about, I think I'm personally excited to see what innovation we might get through AI and machine learning. I think we tend to overcomplicate what the concept of AI is, but you know, in recent months, I've been looking at tools and other services we can use for my team that does a lot of operational work, repetitive tasks. And we've been able to actually do a few small things that have helped the team considerably. So I think like bringing it down a notch, just thinking about it in simple terms can really benefit operations in a company.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's go to you, Walter.
For those who don't know me, I'm just a mad Aussie that's been trying to transform the payment industry for over 15 years and largely not getting through as much as I'd like to at this stage. But I'm most passionate about blockchain. And I'm not talking about crypto blockchain, I'm talking about blockchain. And now with the advent of AI being, I guess, front and center on everyone's lips, although it has been around for some time.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to hopefully accelerate some of the use cases around blockchain. And what I'm most passionate about is dispelling the myths around crypto, and I think there's too much FUD, and it's blocking progress, whether it's with CBDCs as well, right? So that's what I'm really passionate about, and hopefully we can discuss some of those today.
100%. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, down to you, David.
Yeah, so hi guys, David, I'm the CEO of Paycross. Paycross is a payment orchestration platform, which is probably two words that people don't know that much about yet, but Our intention as a business is to begin to join the dots on a technology level. So we bring together banking, local payment processing, deliverable FX, and various other solutions that ultimately bring a merchant into our environment and keeps them in there. So if they want to change provider, we can do that for them in our system. If they want to change bank accounts, we can do that for them in our system. And everything's reconciled in the same place. So we're a technology business, and we like APIs. So anybody with an API who provides a good service to a merchant can be a friend and a partner of ours. And my real passion in this is localizing payments where possible. So when you look at, as we do a lot, the costs to move money internationally, wherever you are, if you're a UK business, and thanks to Brexit, now European business coming into a UK business will incur a near 1% cost hike. So we like to advise and look at how those costs can be eliminated. So we talk about local incorporations, local payment methods, localize, globalize, optimize was a very cheesy saying that we used to have, but it's true. So the more that you localize your business, the more you can optimize your payments. And that's really a passion of mine, understanding how a business is set up today and how it could look tomorrow.
Terrific. Okay, that's probably the best definition I've heard of payment orchestration. So I could imagine it in my mind. So thank you. And by the way, I'm happy to take questions at any time. You guys have been sitting. We had a lot of data. So if anything, if you guys want to jump in at any time, this can be interactive amongst all of us. Okay. So my first question, so the topic of this panel is, they gave me the easiest panel: blockchain, AI, and open banking, all in one conversation. And so we're going to try to cover all of those. You guys touched on most of them, and you guys these are areas close to your hearts and things you're looking at every day. And in the presentation, I talked about RTPs and how transformational they have become and will continue to become. And actually, David, in our prep call, you said, I actually wrote it down, you said, even before I had said anything, open banking and CBDCs are intrinsically intertwined, right? And I, would say that even a precursor to those is interoperable RTP rails. And so can you just tell us a little bit about that vision, why you said that, what that means to you, and give us a little bit of context there?
I think we have to, first of all, we have to understand what open banking is before we kind of get deeper into it. And people talk about open banking a lot, but the reality is, what is it? And it's a bank transfer, preferably an instant bank transfer that's done, if I say domestically, let's talk about Europe as well, as an intra-Europe wire. So we talk about open banking as a way from one account holder to pay another account holder. Let's talk about the UK on faster payment rails, your localized payment system, which is great. It's instant and it works. The challenge is, why is that any different to a UK faster pay? I have a NatWest bank account, somebody with a Barclays bank account that I want to send money to. I'm not using open banking. I'm sending them a wire and it gets there instantly. So what's so special about open banking? And I think the reality is, it's just a cool way to talk about domestic bank transfers in the UK right now. But what it does do is it takes reconciliation and product to a new level where it's now an alternative way to pay as opposed to, say, Visa and MasterCard. So when you go to make an open banking payment, there's a QR code that flashes up on the screen. You hold your phone over it, links you to your app. The payment's already pre-designated. You hit pay, and the payment is instant. That's great, fantastic. Unfortunately, no one's productized it yet. So we've got loads of different providers, Volt, Vine, Tink, Token, the list goes on, who are all doing the same thing, and it becomes a price war. It's still not resonating with me just yet. We know it works, but until it's productized and actually becomes part of, like another PayPal, like another payment method that everybody accepts, then it's still got a little bit of way to go. Now, how does that link in with CBDCs? Well, it's a domestic solution, really. Now, the CBDCs can effectively connect up international local payment rails. So FedNow in the US could effectively be interlinked with faster payments in the UK, so that you could digitize your GBP. It then goes into the system. It then connects from UK faster payment as a bridge over into FedNow, and then there's an instant international payment that's, as you were sort of saying before, fully controlled by the central banking system. Some might not like that. So we actually see now a potential for governments to get involved in remittances. Visa and MasterCard today are doing something very interesting, which is beyond Send Now and various other things that they're doing. They're now collecting data on the recipient side. Now that's a very different thing to what they've ever done before. So before, when you send a card payment, a remittance, you put your name in, your email address, your phone number, and all that good stuff. The card payment goes, you don't get the sender's details. Is it Visa and MasterCard's business to have the recipient details? Who knows yet? But now they're gathering that data, it becomes, you're handing over your data to the schemes of all your customers who are developing the same solution. And that becomes a little bit frightening to me. But that's how I think they're intrinsically linked.
Interesting. I love what you said about productizing. We had a discussion. We've talked about this, Walter. I'd love, Walter, if you want to jump in, and David as well. What does it mean to productize something, and why is that important, and how might you do that with open banking?
Well, I mean, I always go back to the idea of PayPal. So how did PayPal come about? I mean, you're talking about an established set of parameters with Visa and MasterCard and maybe Amex and whatever. It's a card payment method to buy something. And suddenly, out the blue, comes PayPal. Yes, it's connected to eBay, which gave it a massive boost. But it's a wallet-based solution. Now, if somebody had come out and called it wallet payment, it probably wouldn't have worked. But the branding, the productization of PayPal, suddenly, what's this? This is quite interesting. It's a different way to, it's like Apple Pay. Wow, this sounds cool. What is it? You know, when you productize and brand something properly, especially in payments, it has a really good chance of working. And I think that open banking has that opportunity now. I still kind of question why Volt, Vine, Tink, Token, all of these guys, they're not taking it to a new level. People in the street don't know about open banking.
Right.
They're not talking about it. They'll know about it when, wow, what's this? It's bank transfer. The QR code comes up again. Hold over the phone, and then the payment is done. That's interesting. That's cool. But it's still not been taken to that level where people out on the street know about.
And isn't it the bank's onus to do that? Because they're the ones with the relationship, right? Yeah. Banks and wallets, more so than the Tinks and the enablers.
I think, firstly, I'd like to clarify open banking a little bit. Take a step back, because real-time payments or faster payments is one subset of open banking, which is based on the ISO 22222 standards. Amongst other things is account exchange, which a lot of
data exchange.
Early adopters of open banking have taken on, like in Europe mainly. There's a lot of that account exchange information. It started off here like that, right? Now you've got the sort of the push payment facility, and what's happening in the UK, I know this for sure, is the pull payment, where merchants are able to bill directly the customer and pull money out of their account. This is going to be a challenge for services like direct debit, yeah, and I don't know what it's called in the States.
Yeah,
any recurring payments.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of use cases that can come out of open banking, and what you're seeing now is the real-time payments really sort of getting a lot of momentum. In terms of being a product, I don't see an app actually fitting that product side. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I think it's, humans, we like to have a physicality to a product, whether it's, and in fact, if you look at what PayPal are doing with iZettle, and that's their version of productizing their merchant PayPal account, right? So I see the convergence of hardware and software happening, and rather than having proprietary hardware platforms like the POS terminals and other type of terminals, you'll have more open standards like Android or even Apple for that matter, coming together, and hardware manufacturers coming together with software companies to build solutions that are perfectly fit for that use case, whether it's a high street payment solution or an offline or online 2FA type thing, right? So,
I would just add one thing to this, which is a slightly political one, which is if you think about the issuing banks across Europe, across the world, they operate and make their money off something called interchange, which is effectively a cost that they issue to the merchant to use the card. So in the UK, a debit card payment is 0.2%. In our credit cards, 0.3%. If you take a cross-border payment, it can be anything up to 2%. That is money going into the bank's pocket every single day on every single transaction globally. So if you think how many transactions a day go across the UK, how many transactions does NatWest do every day on a debit card? Think about all those people who tap for a coffee in the morning, etc., etc. That's 0.2% of every single transaction going in their pocket. Open banking comes along. You asked me before about how the banks are dealing with this. Open banking comes along and says, well, there's no interchange. So suddenly there's no revenue. And if it takes off, that is a huge, huge hole in the bank's pocket because there's no revenue coming in from card payments. So it is quite political, and they're trying to figure out how to tackle this because they can see it coming. And then if you look into Europe even more, when you think about the amount of banks that there are in places certainly like Italy, you know, they're smaller banks, therefore they're quite reliant on that sort of thing, and it becomes even more challenging, you know, so.
Right, and that opens up a wonderful question of kind of regulator-led open banking versus market-led open banking, which is what we more so see in the US. It's completely fragmented. There is no clear path of open banking, and yet it's taking place where there's a use case and where there's money to be made. So it's just an interesting, different types of models taking place. Wonderful. Well, let's jump. I'd love to jump. We'll come back to this topic, specifically CBDCs and blockchain, but let's jump for a moment to the question of AI. That's something I didn't really talk about in my presentation, but it has, as you all know, taken the world by storm. I mean, it's been around. It's nothing new, but you know, generative AI has really gotten people's attention all of a sudden, and how applicable. I think for the first time, it's really applicable to our daily lives, right? In productivity, anyone who's working now has an immediate application to their daily lives, and so it's just brought it all to the forefront. So, you know, Sukhi, I want to ask you. You talked a little bit about this yesterday. You mentioned this was kind of a personal passion of yours, but how have you seen? How are you all using AI? What are the types of applications that you've either already implemented or are looking at, and what's kind of the impact you've seen so far?
Yeah, so I think one of the big pain points our business clients have is projecting and forecasting. So when you're working in these frontier markets and using Aza Finance to pay out, you're looking for deep liquidity. So you want us to provide millions of ZOF, ZAF, Ghanaian CD, whatever the currency may be, to pay out. So give the deep liquidity plus the technology to do that last mile payout into wallets, bank accounts, or cash pickup. So I think one of the biggest challenges a lot of our business clients have is projecting that liquidity. They've launched a market, they have the users, they have the app, they have the front end built out, they've got the back end with us or with another partner, and now they're ready to do the payout, but they are not, I think, aware enough of how that's going to scale and grow. So, you know, they've got the right product market fit and they have the right pricing. But what happens is, you know, day over day, that those projections and volumes increase considerably. And what you find is that you may not be able to get that currency just through one partner. So you have to get it through multiple partners, or you might have to go just to the banks because that's what the lay of the land states. But if you go to the banks themselves don't have all the liquidity and the local currency. So it's just, having enough providers, but then also being able to work with those providers to help you do the projections and forecasting. So I think one of the biggest challenges we've had is planning for our customers. How do we make sure there's the right amount of currency at the right place at the right time? So settlements are instant, and we're also not, extending our balance sheet on behalf of clients to the point where, it's hurting us as a company. Yeah. So that's been a real tough problem, I think, to solve in the last, 3 or 4 years, especially as more and more MTOs come to us with demands, and they want the pre-funding, they want the credit line, they want instant settlement, and we can provide all of that. But I think a key part of that is planning. So I spoke about this a little bit yesterday. We built this model internally that took all the historical data we've had in the last 18 months, the clients' volumes and how they've grown, and then we've built a predictive analysis on how they will grow in the future coming months in those markets. It's not an exact science, it's not perfect,
right,
but it's at least better than what we had before, which was everybody sort of guessing what the demand would be. And I think it also helps us keep up with our customers' growing demand, right? It's not just projecting, okay, they're going to do 10 million today, but it's also projecting, can we offer them more liquidity if, let's say, we moved allocation from one market to another?
And that was something you all built internally. Okay. It brings up a really interesting question about predictive AI, right? And how reliable and soundproof is predictive AI? It's, you're making a prediction. Anything, as we know, I don't know if any model would have caught, a global pandemic that shut down the world for 2 years, right? So these things can happen. So I don't know if you guys, we haven't talked about this. I don't know if you have examples of predictive AI, and how good is past data at predicting the future? How reliable is that?
I mean, you're talking about AI effectively picking up on trends and then translating it into, forecast projections. As you were showing us before about, the cash being in a slow decline. You're asking, can AI effectively identify what the exact pattern of decline is? I don't believe it can do that. I think because there are so many force majeures in the world that can completely. AI is only picking up what's around it in its instant. I mean, the challenge that I have with AI in general is I got really excited about it about sort of a year ago, and I remember thinking about the potential, certainly from a payments perspective, that we could have a system where when our customers log into the portal, they can start talking to this thing that's telling them why the transaction failed, that's telling them without any human interaction. I thought it's such a brilliant idea. And then a relative of mine who he worked at the time at Google, pointed me into the direction of an article in the New York Times, I don't know if anybody read it, about an interaction a journalist had for 2 hours with the Bing chatbot that ultimately started to develop human emotions. So by the end, the AI is telling this journalist that it wanted to go out with him. It wanted to date him. It was in love with him, and he should leave his wife for this thing. And the underlying message was actually, and it's a fascinating article if you can find it. Just Google chatbot New York Times, and it is an extraordinary, worrying sign. And my concern about AI is if we give it more data, if we give it more to look at and play with, it can really do more damage than good in some respects. And I think it has to be very, very seriously and heavily controlled in how it's used. Believe me, I think it has its positives, but I am quite skeptical about it. And I love technology and things like this that move forward. But it always worries me a little bit when I see that there is no human involvement. This thing, dare I say it, 1984, the Terminator. But it sort of felt a little bit like the machines were taking over when I read the article.
Well, Sukhi, let me go back to you and ask, how are you guys using that? So it gives you an output. How much human intervention is there in analyzing what it tells you, right? Do you understand, this is based on this hypothesis, my brain is telling me this. How do you guys deal with what he's mentioning?
Yeah. So again, this is, we've used historical trends. It's not a perfect science. It's not exact. It's going to give us data that we need to infer and make decisions based off of it. So one of the decisions we make is how much liquidity and volume we can offer the customer and over what time period, so that they pay us back for that currency. So that's helped us make a more informed decision. If you take, if you offer 10 million worth of ZOF over a period of 3 days, then, this is the cost it's going to, incur to the business. So we make that decision based off of that. And I think, again, there has to be some human involvement.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're taking it and then making a decision and taking an action, which you could decide to do or not do at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Got it. Walter, did you want to jump in on the
Well,
AI
yeah,
question?
firstly, is it a question of art imitating life or life imitating art, right? Look, I'm not, in fact, AI's been around for a long time, and I think a lot of the scary tactics born out of a, James Cameron movie or something like that is so over the top. But in preparation for this event, I've been using, OpenAI for some time, and I thought, how do we practically demonstrate how it affects this ecosystem? And so what I did was I took some data, historical data that I had access to from a spreadsheet, and I loaded it up and I started asking questions on that data. And the answers were quite terrific, and it helped me a lot to understand the data better. So today I see, and let's face it, trying to predict trends and looking at data is not something that's just started with AI. We've been doing it for a long, long time. And the people who've done it best are the ones that are making the most money, right? Yeah. What AI does is shortcut a lot of that collection process and that initial triage work that you do with data, because data is data, it's not information. You have to convert and get that data and convert that into information. And I think what AI does is makes that process a lot easier and less intensive and highly scalable. Because especially if you're seeking, and I think from a liquidity perspective, where you're getting data sources from external and internal sources, it can make the job of a data scientist, the person or people that are collecting that data, very difficult, very, very difficult. And I think AI can actually make that job a lot more easier, cheaper, and more efficient. And I think we've got to start thinking about, large language models as not being some big thing in the cloud. You can actually get LLMs specific to your enterprise or your data, so it doesn't go outside, if you like, and has that big brother sort of approach. And I think that's how we're going to see it. I think
it needs to be heavily rules driven. I think you have to, if it can be governed by rules, what are the parameters? What are we allowing this thing to divulge to our customers?
But if you look at Remit One's AML module, that's all rules based, isn't it? I mean, it's been the rules thing's been around for some time, and I actually think that we have to look at AI in a more practical manner, and that's at the moment, any business that makes decisions has to source data from multiple places, and it is hard work. And you've got to run your business plus try to make predictions and trends and so on. And as a small business person, and I know the large corps don't have these challenges because they can pay Oracle or IBM a couple of million to come in and do this and create that middleware or that middle layer that orchestration layer, if you like, to bring in that data. Now, I think what AI has done is allowed small businesses and small enterprises to access the flexibility of looking and analysing their data as a Merrill Lynch or a big bank can do, and I think that's quite a massive innovation, and it's about how do we productize, going back to what you said, how do we take Open or ChatGPT and create a product for, say, the Remit One ecosystem.
We were
right?
talking about how difficult it is to assign value
Yeah.
to an insight you might get out of data or the use of a software. How do you assign value to
Yeah,
that, and how do you
exactly.
productize that, right?
I mean,
It might cost you $1 million. It might
Yeah.
It might be $1 million trade-off,
w-
but you're not going to pay $1 million.
And when you talk about that race to the bottom, really, that's such an important point you raised. You know, you keep on lowering your price. So where's your value? And the data is the value. You know, and how do you monetize that data? Well, you can only monetize that data if you can extract it, work it very quickly and easily without having to download spreadsheets and merge columns and
Great
rows.
pivot tables and-
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, God, I'm so glad those days are behind us, really. What a pain, isn't it?
David, I see you
No, I
over
quite
there.
like the idea actually of AI being able to part underwrite. That
You do or don't?
I do quite
Oh,
like the
do
idea
like
of it.
that.
If it could be controlled to a level where it throws out, so once you've submitted, so you go onto the remittance company, the MTO's website, you sign up and you're sending all the information in you need to sign up, or indeed as a MTO themselves who are signing up to a bank or whatever, where they're submitting all of their corporate documentation, their financials and everything else. And what it does is it should generate a score based on all the information that's been given. And if the score is within threshold, it means that the system has checked it and it approves it. If it's within another range, then it requires an element of manual intervention. If that could be achieved, I think it really reduces the burden on compliance teams to actually get stuff done. Because one of the challenges that we face all the time is that compliance is backlogged, or it's going to take longer to get. We're a technology company. We don't touch client
And how
funds.
frustrating is that when you want to push something through?
Yeah, and we don't.
Yeah.
We've just launched in the US, and we're trying to get a bank account as a technology company to collect to collect our revenues, not our customer revenue, our own revenues as a business,
yeah.
and to pay our suppliers. And no one wants to touch us because we have the word "pay" in our name. People don't look beyond what we actually do as a technology orchestration platform. And things like, if AI could actually recognise and understand what businesses do, it might reduce the burden a little bit. But again, that's very risky because you're talking about a machine approving a business, which is perhaps something for the future.
Okay.
I have a question for you, Lindsay. Where are you from in the States?
I live in San Francisco.
Okay, so that is like the heart of technology,
AI,
leading. Aren't you seeing a lot of use cases in AI? But also, like, I was talking to my friend who works at Stripe, and she was saying a lot of people from Stripe are leaving to go to OpenAI. Everyone's just flocking, right?
It's as you said, or I don't know who said it, the buzzword, right? It's the
Right.
buzzword of the year, and
Yeah.
I've seen everyone in my circle is wondering, how do we use AI? How do we implement it? I'm sure it's true that the workforce, especially younger people coming into the workforce for the first time, are flowing there. At the same time, I've noticed that even for myself, it's hard to change your behavior. It's hard to adopt a new technology into your workflow. I mean, at our company, we're a consulting. We depend on data, and of course, these tools are extremely useful to us. But it is challenging to get an organization at scale to change how they do things.
Yeah.
That takes time. It definitely takes time. But AI is showing up in San Francisco all over the place. We have driverless cars.
Yeah. Have you sat in one?
I've seen them. I haven't sat in one. They're wreaking havoc. A lot of people have a huge problem with them.
Really?
Others are very excited about it. San Francisco's always the place of experimentation.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's interesting to observe your own behavior around AI and how it's impacting your day-to-day. You mentioned, we were talking about just simple things to automate or improve workflows. Do you have any other examples to share about that?
I don't know if this.
Just simplifying it, like
Yeah,
you
this
said.
isn't really AI or anything overcomplicated, but just repetitive tasks. Instead of getting onto our backend platform and checking the queue for our compliance team checking the queue and monitoring and all of that, they just get an easy notification, via Salesforce or Slack, and they know that the task has been completed. versus being logged into like our backend all the time. So just simple things like that, I think, are
Maybe it
the
starts
key
there,
for-
just
yeah.
something simple to create and get people exposed and understand what the power of it is. Even simple data analyses. Yeah. I want to pause. Are there any questions from the audience? No questions. Did I see a hand? Okay, we'll continue. So we've talked about open banking a little bit. We've talked about AI. Now, going into this discussion of blockchain, right, and a little bit more on CBDCs. Walter, you said that this is something you've been dedicated to for the past decade or more.
Yeah.
And so tell us what your vision is in terms, not crypto, but blockchain. And what do you think? I think the biggest challenge has been finding use cases, right, that are economically efficient, sustainable, interesting, add value, easy to understand for the layman. So what do you see those use cases being?
That's a really, really complex question because blockchain can be applied to so many, applications. Like yesterday, I was talking to someone who's in the agro farming business, right? And, when you're talking about selling wheat or any commodity across borders, and there's got to be certain quality checks and all the bits. I mean, blockchain's a perfect fit for that. Yeah. And then, of course, you've got payments and remittances, and we have to understand that the finance world has historically been the birthplace of most new technologies, smartphones, computers, and so on. And blockchain is another trend, that's not going to be bucked because the banks are the ones making the money to invest in these newer technologies. So you're seeing the sort of crypto stuff coming, but I see blockchain as being able to offer parity globally. And when you had your little chart with the different open banking, can you imagine having blockchain everywhere and being able to move value along with the documentation, along with whatever it is, seamlessly across the borders? That's how I see it. And it should be agnostic to CBDCs or Bitcoin. And I see, that's why I asked you the question about whether you see CBDCs as retail. Because if you look at Bitcoin, that's more of an institutional, because it can't be used for real-time payments. It's too slow, it's too expensive, right? And so I do see that there will be a place for your crypto-type tokens like Bitcoin or some stable coin, and also CBDCs. And anyone ever I speak to in terms of international transfers, remittances, or CBDC is going to have a big effect on this. But the last time I looked, we don't have a one world coin unless you're Altman, who's come up with that world coin thing. So how is that going to get rid of the exchange of a US, like a redback, to a UK, EGPB? It's still going to be, there's going to be an exchange rate, right? And that's what's so challenging for me, because if you're looking at, that's the whole
versus another type of blockchain.
Yeah,
product.
exactly,
Okay.
because you're still going to have a value
Conversion.
of a US and Euro or Chinese or whatever it is. And I think what you're doing is you're taking technology and you're literally sort of force-fitting it into something old. And I think you've got to almost take a bit of a blank sheet of paper to it all, and whether or not we can, because we live in a world where everything's centrally architected, right? And you're talking about blockchain technology that gets rid of that, or certainly it obviates the need to have a central body controlling everything. And I think that's a big challenge for society to grasp, because it is so different to
People
what we
like
do.
to be told what to do.
Yeah, they do.
They do, even though they don't at the same time.
Depends.
But it provides that certainty.
Yeah.
It provides order. So what you're saying, I guess, is we've taken this old system, kind of correspondent banking, right? which requires currency conversion, and just brought it to the digital.
Yeah.
Now, David, you had an interesting retort to that when we were speaking earlier.
Yeah, one of the challenges, regulation. Here we go again. But you know, one of the challenges is, in almost every walk of life, everything's instant. Yeah, you can send a WhatsApp instantly. You can send an email instantly. You can have a conversation with somebody on another side of the world over the internet, and it's instant. There's no delay on the line anymore, except money movement. And there's a great book called The Blockchain Revolution. A guy called Don Tapscott who wrote about this, and he said, and actually for anyone who doesn't fully understand the blockchain, it's a good book to read to get the sort of layman's opinion about how it could work, what the world could look like. But moving money should be as fast as an email or a WhatsApp, and it's not. And the reason why it's not is because technology and regulation. Those two things come together, and they're just butting heads all the time, as we've discussed on a number of occasions. And you know, in an ideal world, and as I mentioned in a call recently, everyone has a digital locker on the blockchain. So I have my locker that only I can access, that has my passport, my bank account, and it's dangerous because your life is in there. Yeah. But ultimately, when you go to apply for a loan, sign up to a money transfer company, apply for a mortgage, whatever it is, you're giving access to whoever is trying to underwrite you into that locker. When you go to an airport, they check you don't need a passport anymore. They check your iris, and you know, you go through the gates because it's reaching into your digital locker and pulling all the information out that knows it's you. That's how blockchain could work. It still doesn't solve the problem of moving money, because whilst the technology is there, all of the banking system, they are pushing CBDCs for one reason alone, which is control. Because anyone could come up with a method. Bitcoin is a great example. Ethereum, Dogecoin, whatever, to move money.
They're relevant, all of them.
And you know, the Central European Bank, the Fed, the UK, the Bank of England, everyone's worried. They're all worried because there is so much technology out there that can move money without any form of central control. And the question is whether that's a regulatory thing or a governmental thing or a money laundering thing. You know, there are so many...
I'd like to add one thing to that, greed. I remember the days when we had checks, right? You remember we used to have those checkbooks, and used to, take 3 days to clear typically?
US.
And then they brought the scanners in, right? And it literally used to go into the system instantly. But they still used to say 3 days. Oh, unless you had a salary check or something like that. So there's a classic example of an analog technology where you've got new innovation that being applied to it that makes it more efficient, but the banks don't deliver back those efficiencies. So I read somewhere at any given moment there are trillions stuck in the SWIFT system. And it's stuck. It can be delivered, but it won't be, because guess what? They're making money on that, right? And I think that's the elephant in the room. We can talk about technology and regulation. The fact is the banks own our asses, sorry to use that term, and they can do what they like, and the regulators aren't doing enough to break that, what I call a cartel, all right? It is nothing more. In fact, by legal definition, it's a cartel.
Well,
right? Sorry.
On that point then, if you look at, so you mentioned before, you briefly mentioned FedNow. FedNow is the US's version of faster payments. It's just launched. And it's interesting because it connects all the banks in the US up together for instant payments. So ACH is a day or whatever it takes to clear. FedNow is instant. The problem is, how many banks are there in the US? Well, there are 4,000 banks in Texas alone. So how many banks are there in the US? And FedNow has been released to JP Morgan, Bank of America,
federal banks,
PNC, all the big banks, all the 10 billion plus cap banks, which means that the smaller banks now have to partner with the bigger banks to be able to use their rails for instant bank payments. And it kind of defeats the object of it, because it's bringing control again back to the big guys, back to the centralized system. And how can blockchain solve that? Instantly it solves it, and except for the political angle that is always going to challenge it.
And unfortunately, until I've been really hoping that a big e-commerce platform would adopt blockchain, someone like Amazon, because in fact the PayPal announcement with the stable coin, that's quite interesting as well. And I think although PayPal aren't considered like a brick and mortars, although Amazon isn't, but it's still like an established sort of brand.
Sure.
And I think if they, when I find that amazing because I've still got some Amazon coins from my daughter playing Roblox or whatever. It's on Amazon, right? And they've got this thing called Amazon coins where you can use it for buying digital software and digital assets, not assets as in tokens. And I think it's inevitable once Amazon or Alibaba or one of those big platforms adopts crypto, then I think you're going to get a paradigm shift in adoption at the consumer level. Until that happens, it's, because Microsoft had to go to Dell, they all made noises, in fact Tesla as well, and they've sort of pulled back a bit. And I think a lot of that's got to do with, one, using the wrong crypto, because Bitcoin isn't really built for this sort of thing, and two, they could not create the buffer volatility, in terms of if you as a merchant accept Bitcoin and you don't know what you're doing, you could drop your pants overnight without even thinking about it, and I think that's also another sort of blocking factor in that people don't understand how to manage that volatility. And stable coins were supposed to take that out, but I don't understand how a stable coin can be algorithmic at the same time as being stable. I just don't.
And there's been volatility.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
And this goes
of
back
that.
to what I was saying. Until the grown-ups in the room decide to adopt it and come into this and help the young fintechs, I think we're going to have a challenge. So we've got to get one of these grown-ups in to help, and it can't be Peter Thiel or anyone like that. Sorry?
Grown-ups are the government.
Well, do you really say that? You see how they behave. I don't think they're grown-ups, but I hear what you're saying, Until one of those players comes in, like JP Morgan wanted to come in. They actually tried. I don't know whether you remember. They tried to take a patent out on Bitcoin. I mean, seriously. And it just shows they're not in because they can't control it in the way they've been comfortable with doing it in the past, And I think it's going to happen. I just think that there might be some pain, but hopefully one of these big platforms will adopt it and it'll give us all a bit of a helping hand.
I think CBDC has got some competition in so far as
Can you hear me now? Better.
Yeah.
I think what David was saying a little bit earlier is, just in terms of control. I think CBDC has competition. You've got the Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchain networks that went off. It's really powerful. It's not going far, I think, because people don't understand it. They talk about transparency. The blockchain network is transparent. It creates the ledger. You've got Facebook that came in with Diem. That's got 2.4 billion members, more or less. But it's not going far because, again, I think it's being maybe suppressed. Stablecoin, to your point, it's pegged to multiple assets and has increased tenfold in the last years. So with CBDC coming in against all that, it's just interesting to see how that'll work out for them. And the government's never really had a monopoly of the provision of money. Banks have had that. So I think the whole thing is really interesting, and I think it's kind of like, where will it end? I'm not sure. And whether the CBDC will be successful or even started, there's an attempt, but
I think if you go back to
the jury's out.
If you go back to about 2012, we're talking about nearly 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Sorry, what am I saying? 11 years ago. Whatever. Right. So we're talking a decade or so ago. Why didn't the Bank of England look at cross-border digital currencies 10 years ago?
Yeah.
7 years ago? 5 years ago? Why now? And that's quite a deep philosophical question, but why now? I think it's because we talked before about how regulators are slow to catch up with things and understand things. I think there's been a sort of light bulb moment maybe 2 or 3 years ago where they've gone, hang on a minute, we better get a control over this, because otherwise the whole system's gonna collapse.
Yeah.
And that's why now. And I think that if they'd done it for general good, as in, well, this thing's clever. 10 years ago they could have looked at it and gone, this thing's really clever. This could work. We could translate a GBP into a digital asset, and then we could do a deal with the Fed, and we could move money internationally. It could have been done. It feels like it's been done at a way and at a pace and at a level where it's now a bit too transparent that it's panic stations.
Very reactionary.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It must be, surely.
Been
And the fact
dragged
that
into this cricking and screaming, basically, really.
Yeah.
They have been. They have. Because
And the regulators don't know what to do. The FCA, I worked a little bit with the Payments Association about this, where the FCA and the Bank of England, they're trying to figure it out, and they just can't get to a place where they understand it. We're seeing, I read yesterday, I think it was, new regulation around crypto firms in the UK, right? What is it? It's still not clear. They're talking about new ways to regulate. Oh, it's exciting. And the FCA, I think, have a temporary regulatory status of some crypto firms in the UK, and some will say, oh, we're regulated by the FCA. Well, you're not really. It's a temporary regulation while we figure out what we're doing, and it's a sort of tick in the box for banks to know that the FCA kind of is aware of these guys. And it's all too loose. And that's why I fear for CBDCs in some respects, in that, again, great idea. And in fact, Visa and MasterCard do this all the time. They throw an idea out there, make the change, come on. And all the tech companies are sitting there going, how the hell do we implement this? And we have it with remittances right now. They're asking, I was talking before about how you've got to send the receiver's information in a wire transfer now. That's not as easy as, it's not so easy. Same thing with CBDC.
But, go back to the cash discussion earlier. I think in Lindsay's presentation, cash is still there. Go to Germany, and cash is very relevant.
Yeah, if you go to Copenhagen, you can't find cash anywhere.
Exactly. So it's right up here in some places, in the Nordics, exactly, and right down there in other places. So I think there's lots of discussion still around these things and what will eventually prevail or not.
But the thing is, in the remittance world, we have an opportunity to adopt blockchain in meaningful ways that doesn't deliver the race to the bottom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've got to work together to figure out what that looks like. And I think we're just about, we've got some good ideas. It's just about getting together, and having some bravery.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and bravery, and I think within the R1 ecosystem, it's a perfect opportunity, because you've got the scale, you've got the framework in terms of the partners inside, including these orchestration layer people. Actually, Lindsay, Oliver's there. I just noticed him, and he's got hair left in terms of the crypto regulation, and he's had direct experience, recent experience on this. It would be good to sort of get a bit of a snapshot of without trying to use the F word or anything like that.
To 18 months to 2 years ago, and I had a really good friend of mine who was working within the FCA, and I think they had 80 firms applying for this, what you said, a temporary regulatory status.
Registration.
And they had 2 people in the whole FCA working on it, and each application takes 20 to 30 days to get through. So they just never got through them, essentially.
Well, last year, as I think I mentioned earlier, the statistic I'd heard, again, just heard, was that the FCA approved only 2 EMIs last year. 2 in the whole year.
Archax, and then there was, I can't remember the other ones. It was 2. And then the others were just put on the end of the list and said, look, come back again in a couple of years. We need to sort this out. And they are now slowly but surely, I think, giving people the right to at least apply for the registration.
Leanne, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is fascinating, and I think there's so many different threads coming together here. I mean, one of the, I'm sure you're right that, I think I said it yesterday as well, the regulators are always playing catch-up. That's almost like definition. They're not the people who are the innovators who come up with the business ideas. They're the people who have to respond to them. And then when you get the market shocks, like the performance of cryptos, people not understanding their assets, etc., they go into panic mode, and I'm sure that's what's happened here. And then you put that into a global context, and each country has its own issues, but then they're trying to work with other countries. But also I think one of the challenges is, how do you guys, or us, with all the great ideas, actually really talk to or work with or have dialogues with the regulators and the people who need to create the environment? Because at the end of the day, that's what needs to happen. And, you know, I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I don't see enough dialogue between the people who are ostensibly setting the global rules and the individual entities that are trying to build a business.
No, do we have any regulators in the room?
There are too many moving parts. It's just an opinion, but I think there are too many moving parts. When you talk about CBDC, a great example of this, you're talking about, say, the Central European Bank, the Bank of England. You're talking about the Fed. You're then talking about the regulators. So there's 6 bodies.
No,
so
you forgot the politicians.
And the politics of it, of course. So you have to. I know the Payments Association have been trying to do this for 2 years now. And they're kind of getting there, but they're just having to lobby and put pressure on the Bank of England to make this work. And that hasn't even really factored in the FCA yet. So where the Bank of England might think it's a great idea, then the FCA have to get involved and then put their 2 pennies worth in, or 2 cents worth in, whichever country you're in, and they're in the problem again.
Just an example, I used to go to these parliamentary committees on blockchains at Westminster. And I got to say, I didn't enjoy myself, apart from being in an antiquated building that sort of reminds you of, you know, big colonial bad people, but, you know, with panelled rooms, and it was really warm and stuffy. The people that were running the committee had no idea. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, how are we going to get to a resolution or a way forward with even a framework? And they're pulling in people that don't even have the basic technical understanding, you know, and I just think...
Sure, the learning curve is so tough.
It's just massive, and they're not... In fact, if they were able to attract younger sort of technical-based people and give them the right sort of training in terms of the compliance, the policy piece, they'd be far better off than trying to get someone from the old regulatory world to look at this. They can't. They will never be able to, you know, and I think they've got to, unfortunately, you know, when you've got the FTX experience, the young people, they've sort of put a bit of bad name on a lot of really good, young, innovative thinkers that aren't just about being smart with the keyboard, but really being innovative in terms of the business model. It's not just about technology, and they need to be more engaged. You know.
Well, we're just about out of time, but thank you all for your comments and great discussion. I want to end just with something kind of fun, just to wrap us up here, with what I call a lightning round, okay? So we're just going to get your really quick reactionary thoughts on a couple of terms and concepts I'm going to throw out. So really instant, just what comes to mind, your gut reaction, okay? So starting with you, Sukhi. First one, Swift. Don't think about it.
Oh, God. I'm antiquated.
Antiquated, okay?
What a bad name for it. It's not Swift by any chance. You know, Should call it slow.
Needs to own CBDCs.
These don't see these. Okay, fantastic. All right, let's go in reverse order. Starting with you, David. Digital yuan.
Sorry?
Digital yuan.
Oh, digital yuan. Yuan. Like any other stablecoin, great if it works.
Okay, perfect.
Is it one with a W or no? Well, I think I say the same. It's you know, I'm happy that a government's taken the initiative on that. How is it going to look and play out? I couldn't say because I don't know enough about that.
Okay.
That market.
Could be dangerous though.
It could be
Very
dangerous.
dangerous as well.
Suki?
Just putting a bit of an optimistic spin, hopeful.
Hopeful. Okay, wonderful. All right, let's start with you, Walter. Web3.
Oh, Zuckerberg.
Okay.
Last year, let's look at Web 4.
Okay. Wow. Suki?
Future.
All right. And let's start with you, Suki. For last and final one, generative AI.
TBD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walter?
For me personally, in terms of what I used it for, I think it's a great LLP. You know, you don't need paralegals anymore. You can just do things yourself.
Perfect.
On the fence.
On the fence. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. Fantastic conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Lindsay stealing my thunder with a quiz round. I see.
Preempting.
Flattery is all, you know, it's the best form of compliments, but that's all good. Thank you so much. Just stay there because I have a question for you each. And I know, Lindsay, you're kind of panicking about this one. The question I have for you is this. If you could travel, if you had a time machine and you could travel into the past or to the future, where would you go and what point? David? It's not about making money. You're not like, I want to go back to the time where Google came out.
I think I'd probably go back to... I'd love to know what Tudor England was like.
Tudor England?
Yeah, I'd love to know what it was like. Just seeing, like, the Thames frozen over and, like, just getting a glimpse of Henry VIII and stuff. I'm just fascinated. I like the Tudor period anyway, so I'd go back to Tudor England.
I'm with you on that. Important fact, I went to the Tower of London, and one of the most sought-after roles in the day was the guy who wiped his bottom.
Groom of the stool, he was known.
Groom of the stool. Because they got land, they got titles.
They were always the closest to the king, so he would confide in them while he was on the toilet.
Amazing, yeah. Lucky we don't have to do that anymore.
Yes. Well, listen, if you want to...
No, it's okay, I'm good. Thank you very much. Thanks for the offer, David. Let's go to... There is butt kissing, which is a bit different. Walter, sir.
What would I do?
Back to the future, back to the past.
I wouldn't want to go back to the future or the past. What I'd like to do is get a time machine that goes back to the past, pick up all the Brexiteers and MAGA people, put them back in there, send them back a couple of 100 years, and they'll be comfortable, and we can get on with transforming the world.
Leave them in Tudor England.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Good answer. Sukhi, where would you like to go?
So I just recently took my indefinite leave to remain test. Where you can become a UK. Yeah.
Best of luck with that, with Suella Braverman.
I took it, and I didn't study the first time.
Yeah.
I just kind of went in. I was like, how hard could this be? Took it, failed miserably. Decided to study, go back three weeks later. But I was pretty fascinated with, the amount of information that they make you learn about England and the history and Britain and all of that.
Did they make you watch EastEnders?
No.
And ask questions about Phil and Grant? Any of that? No?
But I think, there's definitely lots of periods like, like he was saying about Tudor England, that seems interesting. But I think maybe 60s or 70s, just to see like the period of social change and just, see maybe what
So you're a hippie by nature.
I lived in San Francisco, so that makes sense, right?
And Lindsay, where would you like to travel to?
I think I
and
would
why?
go back to 1800s, early 1800s in the U.S., kind of the transcendentalism movement and even covered wagon times.
The Old West.
Is very, exactly, yeah.
Lovely. I'd like to go back to the time when I was born just to see my parents, how they reacted to me. It's like, oh, crap, not this. Yeah. Maybe I'll ask one of you. Where would you like to go? What, Tudor England?
I'm listening to it,
Yeah.
and I have not to say today, but later on maybe I'll answer this question because we as an industry,
Mm-hmm.
we fail to collectively raise our voice to the regulator.
I was talking about the time travel question.
Going back to
Yeah.
it's very interesting when you write. Right?
Yeah.
You can see we are talking about so digital and
Sure,
everything,
sure.
but we all like going to the past.
Yeah.
So I think it's important.
You'd probably like to go back, be an investor in PayPal, and then forget about doing your own business because you'd all be billionaires, right? Yeah. Exactly right. Okay, so before we go to our next agenda, I'm going to ask you a trivia question because I know that many of you are saying, Sajid, you've asked us questions, we don't have a clue. I'm asking you questions from some of the most famous films of all time. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. This is probably one that you probably won't know. More than likely, you won't know it. But there is a big prize involved. Who remembers the horror film Halloween? Put your hands up. Please. Halloween. The guy with the mask, Mike Myers, no? Really?
Mike Myers.
Okay, Michael Myers. You know, the guy who wears a mask and just kills people at Halloween. Do you remember? No?
It was Mike Myers in Halloween.
No, that's the name of the character. His name is Michael Myers.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Yeah, not Mike Myers as in Austin Powers.
Yes,
No,
yeah.
that'd be a comedy.
How many times did you watch that movie?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the mask that he wears, which famous celebrity was it modelled on? Anyone other than someone who works for Remit One. Which famous celebrity was that mask modelled on? Does
Where's
anyone know?
ChatGPT? Can I borrow your phone?
Shall I give you the answer?
Yeah.
I think, go on, you want to try it? No, I have no idea. You sure? Who wants to try it? Yeah, what famous person, actor, was the mask actually modelled on, which he wears? Great, thank you. Who would like to answer that? Okay, do you want to answer it? Go on then. Who? David Shatner. No, it was not. It was William Shatner. That's right, so that was wrong.
You mean Shatner as in Star Trek?
Here's a really easy one, okay, for a prize, okay? Right, here's this one. Who starred along with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the film Twins?
Danny DeVito.
Oh.
Well done. Okay, please see Natalie at the end and she'll get you a lovely gift. Just pick up something from the booth outside. Like notepads and badges and stuff like. Just give him his own stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. What I'd like to do now is introduce you to, just for 10 minutes of your time now, to a Remit One presentation. Now, obviously, it'll look really bad if you get up and leave because these are the people who organise today's event. So out of respect, I'm sure you'll stay here. No, you're going to stay here. It's only 10 minutes. Yeah, there's a bottle just there. So this will be a 10-minute presentation from Remit One, presented by Osama Zibati, Head of Services, and Abubakar Sek, who's a Managing Director in Africa. Now, Osama holds over 15 years in the industry, Head of Services at Remit One, offering UK and Europe licensing and remittance software globally, leading the field in innovation and technology. Now he's bringing other players together from around the world to build bridges and connections. Abubakar, as everyone knows, you can't miss him, is the MD for Africa for Remit One. He has a vast experience and sound expertise in the money transfer business, particularly in the African market. He was also CEO of Money Express and Connect Africa Payments and contributed to the launching of several initiatives in the field. Now, as you know, Remit One is a leading provider of end-to-end money transfer solutions for banks, money transfer operators, and fintech startups worldwide. Please join me in welcoming Osama and Abubakar. Straight after this, we're going to go to break.
Oh. This way. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time today to join our Remit One presentation. Firstly, I'd like to welcome you all to this great event. Innovations in Payments and Remittances, or IPR, is wholly owned by Remit One. Remit One launched the IPR brand to host webinars, training sessions, in-person and hybrid events. We are proud of our IPR brand, and we are grateful for all the support that we've received from our partners, sponsors, our in-person and online audiences who've been loyal to our brand since it was first launched in 2021. Moving on to Remit One, we're going to watch a short video before we continue. There we go.
Money transfer is a dynamic and fast-growing industry. However, a fast-changing world has thrown up fresh challenges, making it harder to launch a money transfer business or to keep one running smoothly. Regulations vary from region to region and are liable to change without warning, while the associated compliance costs can be high. Existing outdated technology simply can't respond to the full spectrum demands of a digital infrastructure. It can hinder scaling a business and prevent it from expanding into new territories. This is where Remit One comes in. As the experts in money transfer technology, operating across every continent and with an established and proven network of clients, send and payout partners, we're perfectly positioned to deal with these challenges and ensure speed to market. With our suite of consulting services, we've removed the complexity, advising you on everything from business plans, feasibility studies, to licensing and compliance. We're building the future of money transfer technology so you don't have to. Our multi-region, multi-channel, white-label money transfer technologies provide everything you need to run your operations smoothly while staying compliant. Reviewed by regulators and central banks worldwide, our proven fintech products cater to various business models, including online, mobile, API, and brick and mortar. We also connect you to our clients and partners across money transfer markets in over 100 countries, instantly enabling you to tap into new markets. And we invite you to participate in Innovation in Payments and Remittances, a series of online and in-person events which brings together various supply chain members to share best practices, forge profitable relationships, and drive positive change in our industry. Our customer-focused support team is available 24/7 to handhold our clients through this incredible journey. We deliver end-to-end money transfer solutions to drive your business growth. Come and talk to the experts. Remit One, empowering remittance.
Excellent. Many of you who know and work with Remit One know us as a technology provider. However, we also provide end-to-end consultancy services. For startups, right at the beginning, from the inception of your business, we provide bespoke training courses on industry-relevant topics, such as AML, blockchain, open banking, and how to set up an MSB. We also assist with research, feasibility studies, and business plans, which leads me on to the next service we provide around licensing. Through our very own in-house and partner consultants, we assist with SPI, API, and EMI applications with the FCA. We will be there at every step of the way of the application process, including preparing the key members for the fit and proper interview, ensuring a successful outcome. Remit One will also step in at this stage and provide the regulator with information around the software, security information around about server infrastructure, business continuity, server security, and data security. Moving on, for those who wish to take an alternate route through our partners like USI, who were here yesterday, there is the availability of RAS, or Remittance as a Service solution. Startups are able to achieve a reduced go-to-market time at a lower cost by partnering with a licensed MTO who also provide receiving accounts and payout rails. Next, we have the Remit One technology, providing banks and MTOs internationally with our award-winning software, allowing them to run and expand their business while staying compliant. We're taking a look at this in more detail as we go along. And finally, our connections to our ecosystem, The Remit One ecosystem comprises of the world's biggest brands from the payments and remittance verticals, over 100 countries. Our systems tap into the world's biggest MTOs, IDV providers, payment gateways, SMS gateways, open banking solution providers, and blockchain solutions. For those who are looking to partner with crucial supply chain members in order to run or expand your business, but do not have the right contacts, we assist with facilitating introductions, enabling you to find the right business and the right person to fit your requirements. Here we have examples of some of those supply chain members. So you can see payment processors, SMS gateways, banking solutions. Some of them are here today with us as well. Next, examples of our connections to assist with expanding your business, not only to other regions, but also with a variety of services and payment methods, like utility bill payments or mobile money. Whether traditional brick and mortar or if going through a digital transformation, we have the experts to assist, providing you with a white-labeled solution on rental, sale, or hybrid service. Remit One can tailor a solution depending on your particular needs and requirements. At Remit One, we are continuously updating and upgrading our software with new features and functionality, both from client feedback and market research. Here we have an example of some of those features our clients found extremely useful in growing their business. For example, Loyalty Points Manager we have up there increases client retention. Risk Manager, mitigate risk through allocating dynamic risk scoring. And then next is the liveness feature, which we're actually going to take a look at in a moment. Some of you may or may not be aware the regulator will be implementing this as a requirement. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware where the UK regulator goes. You'll be sure others are to follow. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our mobile phone app that we provide, the white label mobile phone app that we provide our clients. And we're going to go through the onboarding process, and we're going to do a liveness check. So I'll be taking a photo of the ID, and then taking a selfie, and then matching that selfie to the ID that we provided. First step would be to select the country. Very handy if you want one interface for multiple regions. You can choose the United Kingdom. Next step would be the PIN number for easy login access, for future login access. We also have biometrics available there, so for easy access. Username, it can be, as usual, your email address or your mobile phone number. Not everyone has an email address or access to the internet for that matter, so of course we increase inclusion in that way. Next, we're going to start the ID verification and the liveness check. So in the first instance, connecting to the phone camera, it's going to take a picture of his driving license in this case. Brilliant. Once he's done that, he's then going to take a selfie of himself. Brilliant. So what the system is going to do then is going to validate that document on a database, and once it's been validated, it's also going to match the face to that document, making sure it's the right person. And you can see here as well, what it's done is it's actually pre-populated the onboarding form with some of the information that is captured from the ID document, ensuring a more smoother experience for your clients. Okay, brilliant. I'm now going to hand the floor over to my colleague, Abu Bakr Sek, who will go through in more detail how we make it possible to work with multiple partners under one umbrella, and that's specifically for the receiving markets.
Thank you very much, Osama. Good morning, everyone here and all those who are following us online. I'm now going to tell you more about specific solutions we have for all our banks struggling to pay out transactions using multiple MTO platforms, and central banks wanting to have a good control of inbound and outbound remittance transactions. Remit One Hub you have here is built to bring simplicity, security, and scalability to banks' remittance operations, as it offers them one single interface to pay out all the type of transactions they have with their MTO partners like Lehr, like MoneyGram, etc. and the bank can now grow faster its business, and the tellers will no longer have to struggle using multiple logins, multiple passwords, etc. And for central banks, now we have what we call Remit1.com, which is built to help them have more visibility and more control of all inbound and outbound transactions in the country. Com will avail them to have all reports and statistics, and it comes with all the relevant tools to track, monitor, and control incoming and outgoing remittance flows. Some of them are ID verifications, ID expiration date verifications, flag-ups of suspicious transactions, etc. We offer a bunch of value-add solutions to all the players in the industry, and if you want to have more information, we will be more than happy to help you. You have our contacts here. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde.
Thank you very much. I believe now we're going to be going to a break. Join us about 30 minutes, correct? Yeah, so please be here in 25. Thank you.
Can I leave it here? Thank you. I will pick it later.
Money transfer is a dynamic and fast-growing industry. However, a fast-changing world has thrown up fresh challenges, making it harder to launch a money transfer business or to keep one running smoothly. Regulations vary from region to region and are liable to change without warning, while the associated compliance costs can be high. Existing outdated technology simply can't respond to the full spectrum demands of a digital infrastructure. It can hinder scaling a business and prevent it from expanding into new territories. This is where Remit1 comes in. As the experts in money transfer technology, operating across every continent and with an established and proven network of clients, send and payout partners, we are perfectly positioned to deal with these challenges and ensure speed to market. With our suite of consulting services, we've removed the complexity, advising you on everything from business plans, feasibility studies, to licensing and compliance. We're building the future of money transfer technology so you don't have to. Our multi-region, multi-channel, white label money transfer technologies provide everything you need to run your operations smoothly while staying compliant. Reviewed by regulators and central banks worldwide, our proven fintech products cater to various business models, including online, mobile, API, and brick and mortar. We also connect you to our clients and partners across